Good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. Hope you had a great weekend. This is BRN AM for Veterans Day, Monday, November 11th, 2019. Here are your top stories. A corporate logjam as older workers delay retirement, and veterans face an uphill battle to find jobs. It's Social Media Monday, and that means a look at the latest retirement benefits and personal finance trends. And joining us from San Francisco, Senior Financial Services Editor for LinkedIn, Devin Banerjee. Devin, good morning. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Good morning.
Good to see you. So there appears to be a logjam as folks climb the corporate ladder.
That's right. So this is a survey that LinkedIn teamed up with USA Today to conduct. And, you know, Jeff, we've talked a lot in the past about people in the U.S. needing to work longer into their careers, a lot of it driven by a lack of retirement saving or their retirement savings having taken a big hit in the past decade or a decade ago during the crisis. And what we're seeing now, as you said, this is creating kind of a traffic jam on the corporate ladder. Yeah. We're seeing, if you think about it, kind of for the first time, 5 generations in America in the workforce at the same time, from Gen Zers at the young end all the way up to baby boomers. And as I said, basically what we're finding is that younger generations are increasingly frustrated that they're not able to climb the corporate ladder as quickly. So 41% of millennials in our survey, and actually 30% of all adults, say that they found it difficult to move up in their fields because of these boomers waiting longer to retire. And so what are the effects of this? Well, there's some studies, including one by Moody's Analytics, that finds that a workforce with a higher proportion of boomers is actually a bit less productive than other ones. So Moody's found, based on data from all of payroll processing by ADP, that over the past couple of years, when a company's share of workers 65 and older is higher, its productivity is actually a bit lower. Now, there's some other studies, including from Stanford and Wharton, that counter this. But as I said, kind of qualitatively and anecdotally, what we're seeing is a rise in frustration in the workforce because of this. Now, going back to my first point, obviously some people try to place blame or this frustration is, millennials feeling entitled, whatever. I mean, I think the facts are the facts, and as we've talked about, people approaching that traditional retirement age of 65, it's just not the same as it used to be. I mean, that's not a sensical age to retire these days when longevity is increasing or life expectancy is increasing and savings are not at the level that people can comfortably people can feel they can comfortably retire with. So as I said, the facts are the facts, but that's sort of what we're seeing in these types of surveys right now.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and I think people inherently want to work longer. They want to hold on to their jobs. I think there's, economic turmoil, at least people feel that way in terms of consumer sentiment. And I do think that, younger people want to climb the corporate ladder. They want to achieve and do things. And there is a logjam of people. If people are holding on to their jobs longer, trying to, that creates a logjam. And I would say that creates attrition. And attrition, you don't want to throw away tomorrow's leaders or dispose of tomorrow's leaders and have them leave. Training people, Devin, and I think you know this because you cover this on your own platform. Training people is very expensive. You don't want younger people to walk out the door and go to your competitor or even leave an industry and go to another industry.
Yeah, and actually there are some good signs in this story, which are companies that are taking advantage of the situation to train both the boomers and the millennials in their companies, having them set up in mentorship programs where the mentorship goes both ways. We're seeing some companies split important jobs into 2, like C-suite level jobs into 2, and having co-heads or co-presidents or co-people in roles. We're seeing a few companies on the smaller end creating horizontal tracks where employees are encouraged to work in teams and rotate through different roles, and then they can kind of choose among various career ladders. So there are a lot of ways to kind of tap into the wealth of experience and knowledge of the boomer generation, as well as the unique skills that the younger generation has, especially around technology and technical tools being employed in the workplace increasingly. So there are some really good signs, just like those I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly, I love the idea of mentorship. I love the idea of sharing responsibilities. You know, we talk about on this program and with you on the podcast about diversity. That's important. You want diversity of types of people, types of different thoughts. That's important. There's a lot of work to be done here. And I think we often hear about transition plans from one CEO or one leader to another. Maybe this is a transition plan for mid-level managers, and moving people up is certainly an area that I think corporations, not-for-profits, other organizations really need to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Deepening that bench, as companies say, in terms of teeing up people for important roles in the line, kind of appointing future leaders far ahead of time. There was one company I covered in the financial services space that basically was realizing that a lot of the young, really fast rising talent was being frustrated that they didn't have a future laid out for them. So the company started kind of designating potential future leaders of the firm and really training them and investing in their morale and their well-being at the company. So it takes a bit more planning and thoughtfulness, but when you have these 5 generations working side by side, as I said, there's a lot of potential there. It just takes some of that pre-planning.
Yeah, and as you've told us, and as we know, millennials are the biggest generation, I think, in the workforce, and probably will remain that way for quite some time. Devin, hang around with us. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Devin about an unfortunate topic, in my opinion, our opinion, veterans having difficulty finding work after they get out of the service. So stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Welcome back. On this Veterans Day, we honor the service of so many to our country, but many returning veterans are having difficulty finding jobs in today's workforce. Devin Banerjee, Senior Financial Services Editor, is still with us this morning. Devin, great to have you on the show. Thanks for sticking around.
Absolutely, Jeff.
So went to break and we talked about a really unfortunate statistic about veterans having a difficult time finding work. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, well, today is Veterans Day, Jeff, here in the U.S. And each year, LinkedIn tries to do a deep dive into some of our proprietary data and also kind of tap our hundreds of millions of members to talk about, their experiences around certain topics. So, what we found this year as you mentioned, it's kind of unfortunate, and it's been this way for a long time, is that veterans returning to the workforce, do face a very challenging time. So their leadership, their teamwork skills gained during their time in service are often held against them. They're at the risk of being trapped in underpaid jobs and leaving them underemployed. And what's interesting is when you look at the numbers, things don't seem that bad. On the surface, just 3.2% of veterans are classified as underemployed by the U.S. Department of Labor. That's one of the lowest levels in the past 5 decades. Mm-hmm. It's also a better showing than the overall unemployment rate of about 3.4%. But as I said, when you dig into the stories, what you find is the exact nature of those jobs is as I said, another story. So, military veterans looking for their first job coming back are about 70% more likely than civilians to take a step back in seniority than where they used to be before they started their service. So they're kind of regressing instead of progressing on the career ladder. Also, their past education is not really taken into account. Veterans with college educations are at least 30% more likely to be underemployed. And so they're getting those lower paying, lower status jobs that don't really respect the level of education they've gotten in the past, even before their service, let alone the skills and talents gained during their service.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate the level of experience you gain as a member of the military. And I kind of look at it like a 4-year college degree or a trade school, because a lot of those men and women who are on the front lines, who are doing the work, they're not just shooting a rifle. They are gathering intelligence. They are running tanks. They are doing training. They are leading. They are doing so many different things. And those skills, in my opinion, translate easily into our workforce, whether it's becoming a doctor or whether it's becoming a computer programmer. So I just don't see the connection.
It's absolutely true. And a lot of the gap that we found is actually in veterans' ability, but more in companies' ability, employers' ability to basically classify and quantify the skills that these veterans have. So a lot of companies are very kind of stuck in rigid classification systems and job descriptions and skills they're looking for and very specific years of experience and employment and stuff like that. One of the great conversations that emerged on the LinkedIn platform when we featured the story and wrote this story was from recruiters. So I just want to read from Lucy Fulls. She's a recruiter at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois and Montana. And she says, "I'll admit, as a recruiter, I don't always know how to translate military skills into civilian skills." She says that's probably true for the majority of recruiters if they haven't served or have family members who've served. And she said she sees hiring managers who will just toss away a resume or an application when it doesn't perfectly line up with that civilian job description. So as I said, a lot of people are just anchored to these job descriptions and these skills, or they're having to process so many applications, they're not really spending time. There are some positive notes. There are a lot of organizations, nonprofits that help veterans prepare their resumes in this way. One of the veterans that my colleague George Anders, who wrote this story for us, interviewed, this veteran said he spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, for example, looking at how people who have the role or roles like the role that he was applying for, how they present their online resume on LinkedIn and how they present their skills and what kind of language they use. So there are a lot of examples out there, and I think things are trending in the right direction. But as I said at the top, the state of hiring and the state of returning to the civilian workforce for veterans is just not great right now.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any dispersion or difference between larger companies, because larger companies, look, they have functional job roles, and sometimes they don't have the ability to really think outside the box in a lot of these things and take a chance. But in a smaller organization where you are typically doing more, I'm not discounting what happens in a large organization because I've worked in both, but you may take on multiple skills and do multiple things. And I'm wondering if there's a difference between those types of organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of my colleagues here who covers small business news and trends was just telling me this morning that so many veterans are able to start or enter small businesses because it's a much more kind of personal process acquiring those. It's in their hometowns or around the community. They can meet with small business owners and operators, and over lunch at the diner in the corner, kind of talk about skills and experience, or they can start businesses themselves. That said, I will say we've seen some really large organizations have the resources able to dedicate recruiters to veterans.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign as well. Even in the financial services space that I cover most closely, some of the big private equity firms that employ through their portfolio, say 300,000 or 500,000 people, in the case of like a Blackstone, one of the largest, they were able to come out, actually Blackstone and Carlyle and TPG and some others were able to come out during the Obama administration when Michelle Obama was really focused on this and say that they pledged to hire 50,000 veterans across their whole portfolio. And I know some of those firms like Blackstone actually hit that target far ahead of the time horizon that they indicated initially. So there are a lot of pros and cons on the end of companies and in the small business community. So as I said, I think things generally are trending in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations to all those veterans. Keep working hard, and thanks for your service. And Devin, appreciate you coming on the program this morning, and wish you the best for a great week. And we will talk with you very soon.
Sounds good, Jeff. Take care.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it educational. Have a financial topic or someone of interest that you think we should interview? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and so much more, check out today's edition of the Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.